Alright, so I just want to give you a little bit of my background here. So this is my old Ender 3 V2. It's got direct drive on it with some upgraded parts, PEI plate. I obviously updated the springs a long time ago and added a camera, etc. And it's been on Klipper for a long time, and it's been a workhorse. I don't really understand why so many people have qualms with it on Reddit when I look at the Reddit forums. But as you can see, I'm a little bit of a tinkerer. You know, I like to do a lot of things, and I enjoy things that work well. And you know, I like to play around with things mechanically, and I'm an automation engineer. I did eventually buy the Silval. The Silval 8, I think it's a great machine. I just installed this new hot end here because I was upgrading to the Orbiter 2.5 gears, and I broke the planetary, I don't even know what to call it, assembly, I guess, or something. So, you know, I ended up having to pay the $80 to just install this whole thing, which is actually pretty easy. But this has been mainlined. I added the Eddy Duo, which needs this adapter here, but man, it really makes this printer such a good printer. It's so fast, doing the quad gantry leveling and you know, the adaptive or the full bed mesh. But basically now I have to use the TS link here, which I'm ready to go pretty shortly to upgrade the Klipper on this head on the hot end, and get it back up to the same Klipper version that I have for the rest of it. You know, I do enjoy using Klipper. I love that you can basically you know, look at all the different you know, printer configs and make your own config files, and you know, make all your adjustments and tinker as much as you want. And you know, this has been a great system. I mean, I pretty much never even touch this whatsoever. I do everything on the computer when that's on. But you know, while this was down, I was kind of interested. I actually ended up bringing up the Ender again and putting out a bunch of things for some family members that have cats, and this is just one of these cat ball tracks that I was just trying to create some things for them. And you know, I just started getting frustrated with the Ender and started thinking about it. And then I saw that there was on Slick Deals a deal for the AnyCubic Kobra3 for only $230, right? And it comes with the Kobra3 combo that came with the Ace system here, right? And so, you know, I watched quite a few reviews, and people were kind of trashing it. Some people were delighted with it. Some people were delighted and then trashed it later on, and you know, had all these things to say about it. So far, I mean, I've printed not a ton, but you know, just a couple cute little things, which I don't normally even do. I'm not really even. I mean, sometimes I print things like this for like my friends' kids or whatever, but you know, within the Ace, I did print the adapters here for I had Ella Glue rolls that are cardboard, so you know, they do say to use these adapters for the Ace. But basically, you're looking at, I mean, you know, one of the critiques was this latch system, right? Which I find amusing, because it's like, why do you ever need to even lock that? So, you know, I don't really understand why these YouTubers are criticizing that whatsoever. Basically, you know, you feed this into the hole, and it starts bringing it through. I've been finding I let it do that, and then I just kind of like push it a little bit farther up. The tubes are pretty long. They do come out the back and all the way up, and then you basically install it into the extruder here. What's kind of interesting is, I'm not going to pull it out, but so that one is actually getting kind of close. So I wonder, I might need to make an adjustment on that, but you can actually, that's interesting that you can actually see, you can see how that's actually getting pulled out. Well, that's supposed to be a tangle detection, so either it's not working or something else is going on. I'm not really sure. Seems to be still printing just fine. So, anyways, it does have a, you know, something that's really, I guess at this point I'm comparing this instrument to, you know, my old Ender, right? For $220, $230 on AliExpress, you basically get the version 2 of the Kobra3. You get the ace unit, obviously you get the printer. I have it set up in LAN mode right now, and that's what that icon means. So it's actually, I uploaded this print from my Mac. You do have to install if you want to. So this is there's Ubuntu actually as well. There's Linux versions of the software here. What is it called? AnyCubicSlicer something or other. It's very similar to OrcaSlicer, which I'm pretty used to. This is sort of like the I think this one's actually stalled out because I'm using my Mac right now, but AnyCubicSlicerNext. So if you're used to Orca, it's very similar. I mean, it's almost exactly the same thing. I don't know if I'm missing anything, but and just to give you some more information about this, I find it interesting because, you know, I'm kind of comparing this to like an Ender 3 V2 that's been upgraded with Klipper, etc. You know, I do miss logging into Mainsail and looking at some information like the speeds, etc. But this thing's right now doing 300 millimeters per second. I have not. You can up this to the sport mode and make it go 600. The only time I tried that actually was with the spool adapters, and there was no problem with that. Obviously, it's not a complicated print, right? It's pretty flat. You know, we're not looking at Z heights and, you know, having any kind of shifts with the with Z at all. But I'll have to do further tests with that. But there's quite a few things I like about this printer. I think it's like an elegant designed instrument. It's not your typical extrusions, your aluminum extrusions. It's running up this rail. This is for the cutter, which I have never really thought about because I've never used like a multi-filament or multi-color printer before. But basically, this guy will get pushed into here and cut the filament so that it can back it out, retract, and then let the other filament come back in. So I've never used anything that had a poop chute before, so I printed the poop chute because these things basically just like spray all over the place if you don't. But the print head basically comes over here. There's a magnetic contraption over here that basically grabs onto it, and I wish I could show it. I'm not too interested in like doing a bunch of clips about a video and everything here, but basically imagine the extruder comes down in here and extrudes in this spot here. This guy just basically goes and pops it over, right? It'll extrude another set and then shoots the poop over. And I find that interesting because the more I thought about it, it's something I do anyways. I mean, when I'm on my Soval or my Ender, I often will, you know, load up a filament through, you know, whatever tube, being direct drive or not direct drive, extrude for a while, let it come out the hot end, and then I take my fingers and wipe it off and toss it out, right? Well, this thing is pretty much automatically doing that, and it does it pretty well. You can actually see that it extrudes, the fans blow, cools it off, stiffens it up, and then shoots it off. So I think that's actually pretty cool. Other than that, all I can tell you is that, you know, just feeling the parts, it's not flimsy at all. I mean, everything feels well constructed, not a ton of movement. The feet are rubberized down there, I can tell you that. You can't really see, but and with this V2, it comes with the hot end cable, which is a USB-C, and you screw it in, and I like that because that really eliminates, you know, that. So, you know, this may not bother some people, but if you want something that's going to print a long time, and you know, you don't want to worry about cables fraying, I mean, that's a pretty sick cable assembly there. I do have the single spool holder on there, just because why not? It didn't really take up any more space. I mean, if I push this thing back, you know, to the wall, like, the bed still can sling all the way back and it's fine. So yeah, I'm sure I'm missing something here. I would say, you know, otherwise, probably the only thing that I would criticize is, you know, if I go into the workbench on the software, you know, coming from Klipper, it's glitchy. It is glitchy. I mean, I'm on the LAN. Let's see, maybe that's what I need to do. So even though I don't have it on the cloud, and you adjust that here, you tell it if you want it to be on the cloud or not. I have it set on LAN. Oh, and there we go. Okay, so the video is actually working pretty well here. Frame rate is not great at all. It does tell you information about the ACE. You can tell it what colors you have in there, although it says it's obviously not blue, but I don't have RFID tags. I just called it blue and I just forgot to change that. It does give you basic information about the temperatures, etc. I've never used the movement controls. It does tell you percentage, how long it's going to be, and again, you can see that right now I'm on standard speed. You can adjust that to sport if you want to like knock it up a little bit and see how it goes. It probably would be fine for what I'm printing right now, but it's so late I'm not going to bother. But otherwise, you know, this is very similar to OrcaSlicer with the previews and the preparation. But you know, I think the only difference is that, you know, you're not logged into Klipper or Mainsail like you normally are with Orca and, you know, with a Klipper instrument. So that being said, you know, there is some software out there, I forget what it's called, that, you know, somebody has figured out a way to you can put some sort of firmware or software on this USB to make it more Klipper-like, or be able to use Mainsail and things like that. So you know, I haven't yet done that. But anyways, my overall take on this so far, you know, again, to kind of summarize, coming from, you know, an older Ender 3V2, that has honestly worked really well for me. I haven't really had that many problems with it. I think I've had to dial it in a few times here and there, or, you know, I gave it to my neighbors and I got it back and I had to kind of reconfigure it and, you know, reinstall Klipper on a computer as a host, and kind of redo some of the printer settings, you know. And then of course it's not always been a cakewalk with the Soval, but you know, I knew that going into this. I mean, again, this is a new tool head, and you know, I still have a little bit of work to do. I'm going to leave this off because I'm going to actually update it with new firmware tomorrow. You know, I enjoy using this instrument. It's obviously a one filament instrument, but it's fast. It's got a nice large print plate, and I think overall I've not really had problems with this, and it's a great instrument. So, you know, it's hard to say like where I'm coming from, but I guess mostly, I'm coming from that guy to this guy as sort of my backup and sort of my fun printer, you know, being able to do different colors, which I haven't really done too much of, because I just look at the waste that happens with all the purging, and I'm just like, oh, I can't do that. But what's nice about it is I can leave 4 filament rolls in here, and if I want to dry it, which I don't have to being in my climate, but I could if I wanted to. I mean, the total of this for being $230, even without this is a great little printer. I mean, so far I have not had any problems. I mean, it's got the first layer being almost absolutely perfect every single time. The the bed adhesion has been great. I mean, quite literally, like I mean, you can see I'm not even bothering with any kind of brims or anything here. In fact, there's been some prints where I really had to work this plate once I take it off and bend it around to get anything off. So bed adhesion has been great. I have no problems there. So I cannot at this point really fault this instrument for what it is. The small critiques that people have given it on YouTube, because I love reviewing things, I love watching videos, I love reading on Reddit to see what people think about these kinds of things. I mean, I think the only thing I can say is I'm coming from Klipper, and so, like, you know, this software to me is sort of, you know, it's not terrible, but, you know, I think the slicer end of things is basically OrcaSlicer. There's really not a whole lot of difference. I think the only difference is that, you know, clicking on they call it Workbench. I forget what they call it in standard Orca to get to Klipper, but you know, it's just, you know, it's not as comprehensive. There's not nearly as much. You can't do as many things, and that's okay for some people. You know, if you're not interested in you know, tweaking things so much, or you know, configuring things like I am, and you know, that's just the way the world is becoming. It's becoming more boxed in and easier, and I can't find any faults here. So yeah, so I guess I'll end that here. I don't know what to tell you. I think so far, for, you know, the cost of this instrument, you know, I've seen a lot of 3D printing questions on Reddit about what's the best instrument and what's good for a newbie, and, you know, should I get this and that. I mean, I'll honestly, for what I know about Enders, I love them for their historical, what am I trying to even say, like the value in them as a learning printer, and you can do a lot of customizations and doing, you know, all sorts of things with them, you know, especially once you put Klipper on it. But you want to pay $230 for something where you can do multicolor, have a filament dryer, even if you're not doing multicolor prints, but you just want to choose which roll you want to use, have something printing well, and kind of do a lot of things that you probably would have done anyways, without the hassle of having to configure Klipper printer config files, etc. Because this is basically running Klipper. You just don't get all the, you know, insight and, you know, adjustments that you normally can do. This thing's been great so far, so I'm just gonna leave it at that.